We know that he was doing what he loved.
The plane that crashed on its way to Salt Lake City was the third fatal crash for South Jordan Medical Transport Company. I reached out to them about the 11 deaths in less than 4 years.
Right now, tracking areas of snow here across the state with heavy snow and strong wind tonight. What to expect for your morning drive.
Home prices in Salt Lake County continue to decrease.
So we have to have some type of balance.
But tonight, why some experts say that can be a good thing for buyers and sellers.
We live in a desert, and it's time that we begin acting like that.
A bill to get more water flowing into the Great Salt Lake moves forward, but this version has been watered down.
2 weeks after a teen drowned in a frozen Tooele reservoir.
I definitely think that it just shows how much he impacted people.
How a small fundraiser has grown into something incredible for the boy's family.
Live from Utah's news leader, Fox 13 News at 9 starts right now.
The investigation continues into what caused a Salt Lake City-bound medical flight to crash in Nevada last Friday night. This is new video tonight from the NTSB. Crews remain at the scene near Reno, looking for pieces of the PC-12 that broke apart thousands of feet in the air.
Meanwhile, families of the 5 people who died are grappling with this sudden tragedy. Fox 13 News reporter Emily Tenser spoke to the brothers of the pilot who say the grief and disbelief comes in waves.
Scott Walton was the pilot of that PC-12 aircraft, a plane that is operated by Guardian Flight, a medical transport service based out of South Jordan. It'll take a couple of weeks to get a preliminary report from the National Transport Safety Board about what happened. Just days before medical flight pilot Scott Walton took off the runway one last time, he told his family he loved his job every day.
We know that he was doing what he loved, and that's all anyone can ask.
On Friday night, Walton was flying a Pilatus PC-12 from Reno to Salt Lake City when the aircraft just broke apart thousands of feet up in the air. The crash killed Walton, the 2 passengers, Mark and Terry Rand, and Ed Pricola and Ryan Watson, the medical crew on board.
He was all business when he did it. He took it very seriously. He was great at what he did.
His brothers, Michael and John, find solace thinking of all the lives Walton saved in his career.
The only thing that he was prouder of than the work that he was doing was of his family.
Walton was a girl dad, a proud father of 3. He loved hockey, running, and roller coasters.
He was absolutely up for anything and really kind of personified living in the moment.
Whether people encountered Walton personally or professionally, his brothers say he exemplified finding joy in just about anything.
I found myself the last 2 days thinking about how that's something that we could use now more than ever.
Walton's sister-in-law created a GoFundMe to help his family. You can find the link to that at fox13now.com. Now, this crash is Guardian Flight's 4th NTSB investigation in the last few years, and of those 4 incidents, there have been 11 fatalities. I reached out to the company and they declined to comment, but they did say that they are, quote, helping team members and families as well as the responding agencies in this incident. Reporting in South Jordan, Emily Tenser, Fox 13 News, Utah.
Now to a developing story in Cache County where a man died today after he fell off the roof of a garage that collapsed.
It happened near 200 East, 200 South in Providence at about 2:30 this afternoon. The Cache County Sheriff's Office says the 52-year-old victim was part of a construction crew that was trying to remove asbestos from that garage. The home where this happened is slated for demolition. Investigators believe the heavy snow, the work being done, and the condition of the building itself all played a role in this tragic accident.
And the building is quite old, and with age and exposure to the elements, wood becomes weak.
The sheriff's office adds there was another collapse after crews responded, but no one was hurt in that collapse. The victim's identity has not yet been released.
Well, take a look at all of this. I know you've probably seen a lot of it lately.
Yeah.
Snow has been absolutely dumping at Deer Valley tonight. dumping and blowing. You can see here. Thanks to Jack Williams for sending us these videos. It is just one of several areas in northern Utah seeing fresh powder, the freshest there is out there.
We keep getting wave after wave after wave of snow.
They're
Allison.
lining up.
Yeah,
That's
they
right.
sure are.
So we do have winter storm warnings for the northern mountains through 5 p.m. on Wednesday. And with a cold front passing through tonight, this will be arriving after midnight to us here along the Wasatch Front. We're going to see some wind gusts possible up to 100 miles per hour for our northern mountains. So those will be a few possibilities, but it could be very, very gusty tonight. So we have winter storm warnings through Wednesday at 5 p.m. for the northern mountains, and for central and southern Utah, that'll take you through Thursday at 5 a.m. We also have some winter weather advisories for the northern Wasatch Front, an additional 2 to 5 inches of snow possible for those areas. 39 here in Salt Lake right now, 38 for Ogden, 37 currently in Provo. We also have wind gusts about 20 to 30 miles per hour right now, so it's quite gusty out there. Snow still off to our west for the most part that arrives after midnight with that front. We'll see our peak intensities. We'll talk more about what we can expect throughout the overnight hours and for your morning drive coming up.
Thanks, Allison. Well, Governor Spencer Cox is asking the Environmental Protection Agency to expand an area for pollution regulation to include U.S. magnesium on the shores of the Great Salt Lake.
The move would allow the state to regulate the company's emissions. A recent study claims U.S. magnesium is responsible for as much as 25% of northern Utah's pollution. The company disputes that and tells us it thinks the governor's request is unfounded.
The Tooele community still healing tonight after a 14-year-old boy fell through the ice and drowned at a reservoir now 2 weeks ago.
Fox 13 News reporter Jenna Bree shows us how two mothers are helping Jaden Davis's family and keeping his memory alive.
It started out as a small fundraiser. The buffalo is Tooele High School's mascot, and then in their school song, they say forever and forever in Tooele. So we did a play on that, forever and forever in our hearts, and then with Jaden's initials on it, JRD. 823 t-shirts later, Alexa Allred and Kendall Ballard have raised more than $10,000 for Jaden Davis's family.
Jaden was just such a loved kid and everybody knew him, that they wanted to support him in some way and represent him in some way. And so I feel like these t-shirts, it kind of wowed us because we never expected it to be like it did, but I definitely think that it just shows how much he impacted people.
Officials say Jaden Davis died after falling into the Settlement Canyon Reservoir on Monday the 13th. The 14-year-old was with two other teens on the reservoir ice at around 7 a.m. when he and an 18-year-old fell in. The older boy was able to get out of the water.
I think with this kind of tragedy, it just makes people really realize what they've lost throughout the community.
The two moms wanted to give back to a family that has given the Tooele community so much. Jaden's parents, they have impacted me. They are really active in our community, and they ran the entire youth basketball program this year. And my son plays on the youth basketball program. For me, it was just important. I just really wanted to do my part, do what I could. In Tooele, Jenna Bree, Fox 13 News, Utah.
This is something that is prevalent, is there, whether you have an all-star weekend or not.
A multi-agency human trafficking bust happened right here in Salt Lake City. What we're learning about Operation Technical Foul.
Plus, I joined families in Cottonwood Heights as they learned about Black culture and history from their neighbors and advocates with a pretty impressive endorsement.
It's Dame time. 71 points for the former Weber State Wildcat, and you'll hear from him in sports.
Take a look at your screen. Big snowflakes coming down right now in Big Cottonwood Canyon, where we currently have winter storm warnings. A few cars making their way up the canyon. We're going to be tracking this storm for you, let you know what to expect through the rest of the night coming up.
All right, we'll look forward to it. Thanks, Allison. Today, Kearns High School students involved in Latinos in Action got to learn more about the variety of jobs available in the automotive industry. Thanks to Ken Garf, students toured the Land Rover downtown Salt Lake dealership to discover how it all works. They got to see all the departments on site, from sales to service and parts and much more. Ken Garff employees say it's important to get teens interested in a career in this field.
There is a lack of talent in our industry, and these kids have talent. They, you know, what I've told them is don't sell yourself short. Being who you are and being true to who you are, that's what people want to work with. Human interactions, genuine human interactions is the reason why people buy cars.
Those at Ken Garff add that people who are not into salesmanship can always work behind the scenes, whether it's in accounting or as a mechanic.
As Black History Month draws to a close, a great event was put on tonight for all ages to learn about Black culture. I stepped out of the newsroom to go check it out and see the enthusiasm to learn about others' backgrounds firsthand.
Come together.
Inside Butler Middle School,
Me, my mom, my dad, and my little brother just thought it would be a cool thing to come out to.
people coming together.
We want these discussions in our home
to feature and learn about a community.
It was an interesting thing because in many cases I was the only Black kid in the room.
We do live in Utah. Unfortunately, it's not the most diverse state. And so if we don't bring our kids to events like this, I don't think they get as much of an opportunity to celebrate different cultures and different people.
Echo Gay, with the support and motivation of her NBA veteran and Utah Jazzman husband, Rudy Gay, is the chairperson behind this Black History Month all ages assembly.
And I wanted to give knowledge and information and resources to the community and make this a celebration.
Who like potato chips?
A passion project that others quickly rallied behind.
I feel like if you involve parents and children, then the discussions can continue further at the dinner table or on car rides, after games, and it just turns into this beautiful conversation. It's completely up to you.
For Echo, the program is a chance to introduce culture and contribution in a way everyone can relate to.
A lot of times when it comes to Black History Month, people think that it's oppression and different things, but this is a celebration, and this is a story. And there are so many figures in Black history or throughout Black history that impact everyday lives, and I want them to see that this is American history, and you cannot talk about America without including Black history.
A sentiment shared by even the youngest of participants.
I feel like it's important to learn about someone who did something great for our world.
I think it's so important that we have the proper education, that we center and focus around all the contributions that African Americans have, had over the centuries, over the years, coming from nothing to something.
A celebration, Echo tells me, should not end with Black History Month, rather be a catalyst to acceptance and cultural exchange that will strengthen our schools, neighborhoods, and beyond.
I want people to take this experience and snowball from it, and grow from it, and learn from it, and evolve from it, and keep adding to it.
I have to say that was so cool to be out there tonight and see adults and children come together and want that education, that yearning to learn something really cool about great people in our history. It was really neat.
Well, I'm so glad that you were able to go out there. We're going to continue Black History Month here on Fox 13 News tomorrow. Join us tomorrow night as we wrap it all up. I and fellow Fox 13 News anchor Robin O'Guinye share our conversation with our Black friends and neighbors who we spoke with, many of whom we spoke with last year. Catch our special report, The Black Experience in Utah, tomorrow, only on Fox 13 News at 9.
It's been a great month of celebrating so far.
It has.
A month of snow as well, Allison.
Oh my goodness, and more snow on the way. As we take a look at our winter storm impacts over the next 3 days, the Sierra Nevada just continue to get slammed. I-80 from Nevada into Tahoe not open. What we're watching for us here across the state the next couple of days will continue to be mainly minor impacts for I-15 through the next 3 days. But for our mountains across northern and southern Utah, major to extreme impacts down towards the Pine Valley Mountain, Zion National Park, Brian Head, we could see a lot of snow over the next couple of days. And then for us here along the Wasatch Front tonight, we've got a cold front that's moving through after midnight, and we're going to see our peak precipitation this evening about 3, 4, 5 a.m. So we could see some accumulating snowfall during that period. So tomorrow morning, the roads may be slick as you're heading out the door. Please be careful. Maybe set your alarm a few minutes early just to leave yourself extra time for the commute. Probably won't have a ton of shoveling to do for Salt Lake County and Utah County, but the northern Wasatch Front still has a winter weather advisory in place. And that's where we could see some higher totals. So what we're going to be watching for this storm system, it's going to be on and off snow across a lot of the region now through Wednesday into Thursday, all right? Temperatures out ahead of our cold front, which is starting to move into western Utah. We've got about 40 right now for Ogden and Salt Lake. So we might start off with a rain-snow mixture initially. And then as soon as we cool down, we'll change that intensity also to straight up snow. So right now, as we go ahead and zoom into northern Utah, we've got our biggest wind gusts right now and our heaviest snowfall coming down for the northern mountains and also some of our central mountains and southern mountains. But off to our west right now, this is where we're seeing our heaviest snow associated with the cold front. Moving through Elko along I-80 right now. This is headed towards Wendover, headed into Utah. This will likely be approaching the Wasatch Front after midnight with that best chance for snow to move in right about 2 to 5 a.m. We also have until 4 o'clock in the morning wind advisories with wind gusts up to 55 miles per hour across western Utah. So into the overnight hours, we'll see that strongest wind shifting towards Moab tomorrow morning at 7 a.m. And we'll keep things breezy here across the state throughout the day tomorrow. At 7 o'clock in the morning, 25 to about 35 for much of the state. Throughout the day tomorrow, some widely scattered snow here along the Wasatch Front, and also breezy conditions just continuing for the next couple of days. By tomorrow at 2 o'clock, we're around 30 to 40 for much of the state. Provo, Eagle Mountain, Tooele, Salt Lake, Ogden. Cache Valley near 30, Vernal tomorrow mid-20s. We are seeing very much winter driving conditions, Strawberry towards the Uinta Basin. And we've got just chances for snow on and off throughout the next couple of days here across the region. Tomorrow in St. George, 48, 42 on Wednesday. Back close to 60 by Sunday. For Salt Lake, we're in the 30s through much of our 7-day forecast. Tomorrow, widely scattered snow and breezy. More on what to expect with our more widespread snow on Wednesday coming up.
Well, home prices in Salt Lake County continue to decrease. What that means for those trying to buy or even sell their home.
As mortgage rates remain near 15-year highs, home sales and prices in many cities in Salt Lake County decreased in January.
Fox 13 News reporter Chris Arnold goes in depth tonight with the Salt Lake Board of Realtors on what this means for home buyers and sellers.
I bought in 2021 during the spring of 2021.
That's when Matthew Cluett and his family became first-time home buyers, finding this house out in Kaysville.
It was an offer that I actually had to pay above asking price for. And it was at pretty much the top end of my budget at the time. I had to go, I think, $20,000 over asking.
Well, according to the Salt Lake Board of Realtors, the pandemic really spurred a home buying rush from March 2020 through May of 2022. During that time, the price for a single-family home increased by about 60%. Now, since May, those prices have come down about 22%.
We've had more prices been able to get, I'd say stabilize is a little bit better. I mean, people hear the word fall like their prices are crashing. Wouldn't say prices have been crashing, but they've come down a lot.
As of January, the Salt Lake Board of Realtors says the median home price for a single family in Salt Lake County was $533,500, 9% lower than this time last year. To start the new year, the board says just under 600 homes were sold in Salt Lake County, down 36% compared to 927 home sales in January of last year.
I think the interest rates as a whole is the major factor that has created the most instability along with the timing of the increase.
Those 30-year mortgage rates going from just under 4% this time last year to 6.5% currently. While prices have dropped in many places, a few cities in Salt Lake County have seen an increase. That includes places like West Valley City and Holiday, as well as the Canyon Rim area, which saw the single-family median home price increase 36%. Overall, Rob Aki, the 2023 president for the Salt Lake Board of Realtors, says the current market can be good for both buyers and sellers.
And of course, the seller always wants to be able to make the most money possible. But the way that trend was occurring, buyers weren't able to buy homes. I mean, we were pricing people out of properties. So we have to have some type of balance.
As for those who bought their home during the buying frenzy over the last few years, like Cluett, there's no buyer's remorse.
I'm still very confident with my purchase, as I'm sure for someone else who's looking for their first property right now, it's a good time for them to purchase as well.
In Sandy, Chris Arnold, Fox 13 News, Utah.
A dozen arrests made over the NBA All-Star Weekend. I'm Amy Nay in downtown Salt Lake City, and I'll tell you why this is only part of a larger problem.
A big bill on the Great Salt Lake moves forward here in the legislature, but it's been watered down.
At first, I was kind of in shock because I was like, no way they're going to let me do this for a state championship.
How a local high schooler was able to score the first basket in a state championship game even after a recent ACL surgery.
We are ahead of the pace of Utah's biggest ever snow year, and that's before the storms lining up now. So how likely is it we see the snowpack and the flooding of 1983?
RSL's Damir Krylak scoring the game-winning goal. What it means for him to be back.
There was a seedier side to the glitz and glamour of the recent NBA All-Star Weekend in Salt Lake City.
Salt Lake County District Attorney Sim Gill announced this morning a dozen arrests for online solicitation of minors. Fox 13 News anchor Amy Nay takes a closer look at the bigger issue of human trafficking in Utah.
When we understand trafficking is exploitation of vulnerable individuals, it's not just in a Colombian jungle in the basement somewhere.
But rather happening here in Utah. That's why Candace Rivera started the group Exodus out of Utah County 3 years ago.
Exit us, yeah. EXIT-US, and the reason it is because we want to facilitate that exit. We don't believe in rescuing. We believe in exit strategies and exit planning. Aligning them with mentors, crisis counselors, therapists that can walk that road with them is huge.
Helping the survivors of sting operations, like one facilitated during the NBA All-Star Weekend by the Salt Lake County DA's office and the FBI's Human Trafficking and Child Exploitation Task Force.
It was about addressing the issue of online enticement and predatory behavior that targets our most vulnerable, our children.
12 people arrested, now facing a range of charges from sexual exploitation of a minor to enticement to sharing contraband.
Whenever you have large events, it creates its own sort of buzz, and it creates an opportunity for people to be distracted and for predators to be very prolific.
Here at Vivint Arena, they've almost completely cleaned up from the NBA All-Star Weekend that brought in tens of thousands of people, only heightening a problem that DA Sim Gill says was already here.
This is something that is prevalent, is there, whether you have an all-star weekend or not, but it is something that parents and our community needs to be part of and know that this is a real danger for our children.
The DA's office becoming a part of this targeted effort in 2018, and since then, Gill says they've had 245 prosecutions.
But our data shows us that for every one that we catch, there are a multitude of other predators who are out there engaging in this behavior.
But with this message for the others.
If you're an online predator, we're here, we're going to catch you, and we're going to prosecute you.
And he says parents need to be aware of the danger of cell phones and the access it gives to your child.
This phone, this technology brings that stranger into our household.
Something Candace says they're trying to fight as well and help those survivors take that next step.
We meet them where they're at, and I think that makes a difference. Not only providing education and awareness for the community, but also figuring out ways to help these young, mostly young girls, we also get young boys, men and women, to actually be successful in healing.
Amy Nay, Fox 13 News, Utah.
If you or someone you know needs help, there are resources available. Contact the group Exodus at joinexodus.org or call the number on your screen right now, 801-806-4865.
Listen to this bizarre story out of Utah County. Provo police say they mistakenly tackled a 16-year-old boy last night while they were looking for a suspect at the Peaks Ice Arena. Officers were looking for that suspect wanted for aggravated assault and possession of a firearm by a restricted person. Police and bail bondsmen saw someone they thought was the suspect participating in an indoor soccer match and took them to the ground. Officers then apologized to the teen's family right there on the spot when they realized they had the wrong guy. Authorities then found the right man a short time later, still at the arena, and then arrested him.
We live in a desert, and it's time that we begin acting like that.
A bill originally designed to get water into the Great Salt Lake has been watered down in a legislative committee. But environmental advocates, they're not giving up. They say it still does a lot of good.
Fox 13 News political reporter Ben Winslow has more from Utah's Capitol Hill.
City dwellers are going to do their part.
Representative Doug Owens' bill now bans watering lawns along the Wasatch Front from October 1st to April 25th.
Why the focus on grass? Well, because in the summer months, that's a very substantial part of M&I water deliveries.
But where the bill called for the water that's saved to be put into the Great Salt Lake,
the sub removed a substantial piece of the bill.
He says he had to modify the bill.
The water districts were complaining that that was too complicated and implicated too many different water rights, so we're going to have to take more time to work through that.
Water districts feel like it's important to preserve water in reservoirs for future use.
Many local water districts testified that while they support the goals of the bill, they have concerns.
Water that is not diverted, which this bill will increase water that is not diverted going down the stream, that water still has a high likelihood of making it to the lake.
The Great Salt Lake is at a historic low, and northern Utah faces ecological catastrophe with toxic dust storms, reduced snowpack, and harms to health, wildlife, and the economy. The Utah State Legislature is pushing a lot of bills and hundreds of millions of dollars in funding aimed at saving the lake. But some environmental groups are frustrated. They say not enough is happening to get water quickly into the lake.
It's a very responsible, innovative approach to thinking about how we don't need to water.
The head of the environmental group Friends of Great Salt Lake says it's still a good bill and she's not giving up.
Oh no, not at all.
We can't talk water into the lake. So we'll be definitely working over the summer to bring back the second piece of the bill, which is to require conserved water to get to the lake.
On the Hill, Ben Winslow, Fox 13 News, Utah.
Well, the Utah Senate voted 20-6 today to pass a proposed state constitutional amendment on the earmark for education on the income tax. Meanwhile, negotiations continue with education stakeholders on the specific language and funding for education. The latest version keeps the earmark, but lets the state dip into the income tax to fund other government needs. If it passes the legislature, voters get to decide the issue in 2024.
The latest medical cannabis bill has passed the Utah legislature. Senate Minority Leader Luz Escamilla is proposing modest changes to the state program. PTSD would be a qualifying condition to get cannabis. The measure would also allow dispensaries to do some marketing. The bill now goes to the governor's desk for his signature or veto. Two bills targeting diversity, equity, and inclusion efforts in state government and at Utah's colleges and universities were heard in the legislature today.
One would ban state agencies and schools from seeking commitment statements on their ideals of diversity, equity, and inclusion. It is scheduled to be reconsidered in a Senate committee tomorrow. Now, the other, which would eliminate offices of diversity, equity, and inclusion at Utah's colleges and universities, got sent out for a study. It will not be going forward this year. Today's discussions attracted protesters.
Coming up, the Positively Utah story of a high school girls basketball player who played a key role in the girls' 4A state championship game despite a serious injury. We'll show you.
And coming up, a large area of low pressure off to our west, the driving force for a lot of storms here over the next couple of days. What to expect tonight and for your morning commute.
Welcome back, everyone. Now on to a positively Utah story about overcoming adversity and sportsmanship. An ACL tear is usually a season-ending injury. Could possibly be multiple seasons.
Oh, yeah. A Skyview High School athlete tore her ACL last month, but her team still found a way for her to make the first basket in the girls' 4A state championship game on Saturday.
Fox 13 News reporter Darian DeBrule spoke with the student athlete.
It was a January home game versus Ridgeline, and Melanie Hyatt was doing what a post does best, rebounding.
I had seen there was no one really down the court, so I was like, I'm just going to take it. I'm just going to dribble it down and try to get a fast break layup.
The opposing team's defender caught up with Hyatt, so she made a quick cut and attempt to evade the defender when her knee bent in.
I just went down. I didn't know what was happening. My knee it was hurting really bad. And the first person that came up to me was the Ridgeline head coach, because I just fell right in front of her.
Hyatt would soon find out she tore her ACL and meniscus. She never imagined months later she would score the first basket in the 4A girls basketball state championship versus Ridgeline with the help of both coaches.
After the semifinal game, when we found out it was going to be us against Ridgeline, Ridgeline's coach, actually, Coach Jinx, she reached out to me. We were up on the top of the spectrum, and she came over to me and she said, "Hey, we want to let Mel get the basket. We want to let her start."
At first, I was kind of in shock because I was like, no way they're going to let me do this for a state championship game. I'm like, I haven't shot a basketball for weeks, maybe in a month. I'm like, I hope I don't miss out the other side of the backboard or anything. But yeah, so in warm-ups and things at the championship, I also took a few more layups just to make sure I was ready and could make it.
Hyatt said starting with the girls she grew up playing with made the moment even more special.
In this group of seniors, there's 5 of them, and they have been playing ball since they were itty bitty teeny, little kids.
We've dreamed about our senior year being in the state championship and things and being able to play in it together, and I was grateful I was able to start with them for one last time.
Although Hyatt's basketball career may be over, she says she'll take the lessons she learned from her injury to her volleyball career at Snow College in the fall.
I was thinking, I'm like, maybe this is teaching me how to be a good teammate, right? Because in college, you don't always play. Sometimes you're just there to support your teammates.
Darian DeBrule, Fox 13 News, Utah.
Great story. Still ahead, if you were to compare this year's flood potential to years past, how do you think we'd fare? We'll look back to 1983.
I'm Andrea Urban, and Real Salt Lake opened their season in the win column thanks to a Demir Krylak game winner. You'll hear from the team next. Speaking of soccer, the news just gets better. After moving to Kansas City in 2020, the Royals might just find their way back to Utah. Details in sports.
Taking a live look right now, US 40 at Strawberry Reservoir. So the roads are very bad right now for many portions of the state. This camera is kind of cutting in and out, but you can see very, very heavy snowfall coming down right now. So please travel with caution. We've got some low visibility over towards the Uinta Basin, 1.75 miles in Vernal, and for Cedar City down to a mile right now also. Your forecast is coming up in a few minutes.
It just continues to fall. With so much snow this year, our instinct is to compare what we're experiencing right now to other years.
Instinct and also curiosity, right? Fox 13 News anchor Max Roth got help looking in depth into how close we are to the biggest snow-packed year on record.
No matter what happens from here, this is a big water year. But it's going to take a lot for us to come anywhere near Utah's biggest ever year for snowpack and flooding. In 1983, water left destructive debris all over Bountiful, and these volunteers in Pleasant Grove sandbagged to divert water in Utah County. Similar pictures in Vernal and Panguitch, with road crews scrambling to allow Memorial Day travel. In Salt Lake City, underground diversions could not handle the onslaught. State Street became a river. These scenes, documented by our partners at the Tribune, came to represent the year of flooding. So what made 83 so off the charts? Glenn Merrill is the hydrologist for the National Weather Service in Salt Lake.
We held on to the snow way later than we typically do before we started bringing it down the mountains.
It stuck around later, and it was a record high snowpack. Then it all came down.
Memorial Day weekend in 1983 all of a sudden jumped up into the 90s in the valley, and it stayed there. And all that snow that held on late into the year came down at once.
Let's show you. This is where we are now, ahead of 1983. That's the dark green line. But it's still February. Normally, snow starts its spring melt in early April, and the higher elevations are depleted by mid-June. That's 71 days, just under 2.5 months of melting. In 1983, the snow was near its peak on May 20th. Sudden high temperatures saw the spring melt cascade down, all gone by July 10th, 51 days. A lot more snow in a lot less time. What are the odds that we have similar events and a similar snowpack in late May this year compared to 83?
The chances of seeing a repeat of the 1980s, they're quite slim for a variety of reasons.
The three questions Glenn Merrill poses. When will we peak? May 20th was an extreme in 1983. How much snow will we get? It's already a big snow year, but nowhere near 83's high. And when does Mother Nature turn on the heat? Is it gradual or sudden? And even if we see 1983 conditions, we likely won't see 1983's damage. Does Utah have improved infrastructure to deal with this kind of water compared to 1983?
Since 1983, absolutely. A lot was learned in 1983, and there's been a significant amount of improvements to systems and storage even.
Glenn Merrill mentioned that we might not think about our reservoirs themselves in terms of flood control, but that is exactly what they are. Jordanelle wasn't there in 1983, and it helps hold back the Provo River. And Little Dell helps control runoff out of the mountains above Salt Lake County. In studio, Max Roth, Fox 13 News, Utah.
Those graphs are so interesting to look at. Of course, Max is the master of graphs, but so is Utah's Weather Authority, Allison Krogan.
Yeah. Even with all those graphs, time will tell.
Yeah,
right, Allison?
Absolutely. I'm really interested in hearing when we have our peak, and as he was mentioning, what kind of cool down we have, if it's drastic or if it's longer. As I mentioned a moment ago, we were just looking at that video of Strawberry Reservoir. Roads are very tough right now. In eastern Utah, Duchesne, Uintah County is very tough. Indian Canyon is closed from the Duchesne side right now. Low visibility for Bryce Canyon, 1.5 miles, 3 miles for Cedar City, 6 miles for the Cache Valley. Main headlines, we've got a cold front arriving after midnight, most likely seeing our peak precipitation for the Wasatch Front tonight about 3 a.m. We'll see areas of heavy snow and very gusty conditions for our mountains tonight. And then for southern Utah, you're primarily seeing precip Tuesday to Thursday. But we'll have widespread snow here across the state on Wednesday. So for Salt Lake right now, it's 39, but it feels like it's 29 because our wind is so strong right now. Our front is just off to our west, currently moving through Elko, approaching Wendover. Out ahead of it, we've got southerly wind right now, allowing those temperatures to still be rather warm, all things considering, as we're close to 40 right now here in Salt Lake. Let's go ahead and chat about the rest of tonight and what we can expect, because at 10 o'clock, it's going to be about 35 to 40 for the Wasatch Front, close to 20 to 30 for much of Utah when we're waking up tomorrow morning. Northern Wasatch Front, Weber, Davis counties, Cache County, Box Elder, we do have an additional 2 to 5 inches of snow in the forecast through tomorrow morning. Ogden, your chance of precipitation is basically on and off every couple of days, Tuesday to Wednesday, Thursday night into Friday. Some chances also this weekend. For Utah County, we also have some additional chances for likely snow Tuesday night into Wednesday, your best chances. Again, Thursday night into Friday, scattered chances. And then Saturday night into the weekend, we also have more scattered snow chances. For St. George, you're going to keep things dry once you get Thursday into this weekend. But Tuesday to Wednesday night, we are looking at likely rain, maybe some snow mixing in. But from now until tomorrow morning, this will be Tuesday at 1 p.m. We've got chances for snow for much of the state. But as we take you through Thursday, we're going to keep our eyes on the Pine Valley Mountains, Zion National Park, down towards Brian Head. For the Wasatch Front, mainly looking at 3 to 6 inches of snow now through Thursday. So for St. George, 48 tomorrow, 42 on Wednesday, 48 on Thursday, close to 60 by Sunday. And your best chance for rain for St. George will be on Wednesday. For Tuesday, we're looking at tomorrow in Salt Lake, widely scattered snow and breezy conditions. Breezy still through Wednesday. Widespread snow, blowing snow, drifting snow will be a concern. But that's when we are most likely to see the bulk of our accumulating snow. Thursday, 33 in Salt Lake, so we're cold to end the week. Friday, more widespread snow, and then some more scattered snow chances Sunday into Monday. Looking beyond our 7-day forecast, we are going to keep a cold, wet pattern for the next 2 weeks.
Damir Kreilach scored Real Salt Lake's game-winning goal on Saturday night for the win on the road over Vancouver. And Kreilach played just 5 matches last year before undergoing a back procedure that ended his 2022 season. I stopped by training today where both the players and head coach are happy that he's back on the pitch. What did you learn about your team?
It's nice to have Damir back. He makes a big difference. We saw a lot of the chemistry of the guys that came back from last year. It gives me just a lot of hope and seeing this team grow.
I think Damir is a natural leader for this group. No one understands what it's like to be out for a whole year. You know, I think the fact that he got himself in that position and scored that goal is vintage Damir Kreilach. It's a long season. What we have to do is manage his minutes, manage the expectations so that he can play free and he can be who he is.
And some exciting news for soccer fans. Confirmed and reported by The Athletic, the Utah Royals will officially make their return to the National Women's Soccer League. A formal announcement is said to come in mid-March, launching the team for the 2024 season. The Royals were an NWSL team dating back to 2018, but moved to Kansas City in December of 2020 after the team's former owner, Deloy Hansen, was ousted for toxic environment and racist behavior. The Royals will keep their original team name and join the league with an expansion team from the Bay Area. Damian Lillard has been on fire since winning that three-point contest in his Weber State jersey during NBA All-Star Weekend. Last night, the former Wildcat dropped a career-high 71 points in Portland's win over Houston. You got to check this out. The 7-time NBA All-Star set a franchise record with 71 points, including a Blazers record 13 three-pointers to help Portland beat Houston 131-114. Head coach Chauncey Billups called his performance a piece of art, and Dame proudly agrees.
There's beauty in it because of where we are as a team, for one. I think because of what I represent, you know, and what I put into the game, how I handle myself, how I handle success. I do the work, man. I do things the right way. I make sure I put my time in. I go out there and do it for the right reasons. That's the beauty of art like this. People know I have big performances, but they love these moments. I think because so many people have witnessed what happens before these performances happen, they appreciate this, you know, as that type of art, you know, and that's why it means something to me.
Yeah, Dame's done just a little bit of work since leaving.
I love that soundbite, kind of putting it into perspective that what you see is hours and hours of practice, just consistent.
Yes, consistency is key in all things. And welcome back, Utah Royals. That is a very exciting news for just soccer fans in Utah. We love it.
Thanks, Andrea.
Of course.
We'll be right back. Thanks for being part of Fox 13 News at 9.
QuickCast is next.